Hey everybody, it's Emily at ARG Schooling, and today I'm going to be doing my May reading wrap-up. So I thought I'd film outside because one, it's absolutely gorgeous right now. It's like the perfect weather. And two, my daughter's watching TV and I did not want to interrupt her to film a video. And three, I have makeup on today and I don't want to waste it. So today seemed a good day to film. I haven't done a wrap up in a really long time. I'm rusty. I don't know how this is gonna go, but we're gonna just go. Month of May, I read 7 books and I'm just gonna start chatting about them. The first book I finished in May was The Wicker King by Kay Ancrum, and to be honest, the book did not leave a huge impression on me. I don't remember that much about it now that I'm sitting here trying to think about it. And I think, to be honest, the issue I had was that I read it as an ebook, and as I was reading I noticed that there were like pictures that would come up in my ebook, but they were like really small for no apparent reason and hard to see. So after I finished it I was like, okay. And then I found out that those pictures are like a big part of the story, and the way the physical book is laid out, I was like, oh, I probably would have gotten so much more out of it if I'd read that version of the book. So I might go back sometime and find a physical copy to read, because I feel like I would have gotten so much more from the story if I'd done that. All I really remember was it was about 2 boys and their friendship, and it was like an unhealthy sort of toxic relationship, I felt like, but I don't remember a lot about the story. I read it very quickly. I remember I read the whole thing in like 2 sittings, so I don't remember enough to give a good synopsis. But I will say that, like I said, I'm pretty sure my big issue is that I read the ebook, and I think I would have enjoyed it more had I had a physical copy. So anyway, I'm gonna move on. I think I originally gave it 3 stars, so like I said, I didn't dislike it. I don't remember it very well, and that makes me sad. So I gave it 3 stars. The next book I completed in the month of May was David McCullough's 1776. I've actually owned this book for a good decade, I think, maybe longer, and I had never actually picked it up. But when I was working on level 12 and I needed something about the Revolutionary War, I remembered I actually owned this, so I picked it up to read it. And I will say it's very well written. I really enjoyed the fact that it focuses around 1 year of the war rather than the whole entire war, but he brings in information about like different aspects of the war, and I enjoyed that quite a bit. He focuses on the men fighting in this year and like the leaders of the revolution and how things came together, and I enjoyed that quite a bit. And I gave this 4 stars. The next book I completed was The United States Constitution, a graphic adaptation, and this is by Jonathan Hennessy, and the art is by Aaron McConnell. I really liked this a lot. I had been looking for some way to incorporate the Constitution into level 12. I wanted to read the actual Constitution, but I also wanted it to be done in a way that made it more, what word do I want? More tangible, more useful. You get more out of it. And I think by pairing the Constitution with the graphic adaptation, I feel like you would just get such a more full picture of what this document means to America and to the founding of our country, to where we are now. And I really found that this book was just such a great resource for that. The illustrations are really great. They really lend a lot to the story, not the story, to the book itself. And they pair really well, I think. He does a really great job explaining every single aspect of the Constitution. Like, he breaks it down piece by piece, amendment by amendment, and explains not just what it means, what as written, but how it's evolved over time through Supreme Court cases and such to become where we are now. And I think that's a great way to explain it, and I think it also makes it so much more realizable as a living document, as opposed to this is a thing that was written as is in the 1700s and we still abide by it. I like that the way he explains things shows how it's changed and evolved as we as a people have changed and evolved. So I highly recommend this. I gave it 5 stars. Okay. The next book that I completed in May was a read aloud with my daughter. We read The Birch Bark House by Louise Erdrich. I've owned this for a long time, and we finally decided to read it. And my daughter said for the first half of the book she gives it 5 stars, but for the second half of the book, 1 star. She did not appreciate the sad turn this novel takes. This is a story about a little girl named Oma Caius and her life in the I think it's 1840s or 1850s. I don't remember. In the mid 1800s. And it's sort of a story like Little House on the Prairie, how it shows you the life through their eyes and what life was like in that time, like day to day. And we really appreciated that. It goes by seasons, and it follows the different seasons of the year. And the only problem we really had with it was how sad it got. My daughter doesn't do well with sad stories. She gets very emotionally attached to characters, and yeah, it didn't go well for her. I think she would have liked this better when she's a little bit older. Maybe, or maybe not. Maybe she's never going to get over her sad story issues, but I found it very good. I enjoyed this quite a lot, but I would say definitely 10 and up. Did buy the next book in the series. I don't know if we're going to get to it. We decided to put it off for now. We'll come back later maybe when she's accepted the sadness of the story, but we had to just do something totally different next so that she could kind of feel better. This took us the whole month to read because when we got to the sad part, she needed a break. So we kind of put the book in the freezer. We set it aside for a couple of weeks and we came back and finished it. But yeah, we definitely enjoyed it. We just wished it hadn't been so sad. Next book I read in the month of May was Someone Knows My Name by Lawrence Hill. And I loved this book so much. This was just wonderful. This is the story of Aminata Diallo and her life, basically. It starts in Africa when she's very young. I want to say she's maybe 11 or 12 at the beginning of the book. And it follows what happens when the slavers came and kidnapped her and several other people from her village. And it follows her life through coming to America as a slave and her experiences with that, but also this takes place during the Revolutionary War, like right before it starts, and we follow her as she escapes to freedom in the North and then works for the British during the war to gain more freedom. And it's so sad, but also so beautifully done. I really feel like this is like the great historical fiction where he really does put you right there in the place, like you're there, you feel it, you smell it. It's very, very well done, very well written. I thoroughly enjoyed this. This is definitely going to be in level 12 because I was looking for a book that covered the slave experience and over like the span of someone's life. Basically, I was looking for that particular story, and I was very excited when I found this. This is exactly what I had wanted. It covers not just that, but also the Revolutionary War and how the war affected ordinary people, specifically the slaves or the escaped Africans that had made it to freedom in the North. And this book is so good. This book is so good. It says it's a mini-series. I've not seen that yet, and I will have to see if I can find it. I did look up and found a trailer for it, which was interesting, but I haven't seen the whole thing, so I don't know if I can find that somewhere. I'm hoping I can find it online, on demand, on Xfinity on demand, or maybe on Netflix. I don't know. I haven't looked yet, but I kind of want to see it now. But anyway, I thoroughly recommend this. It was beautiful. You should read it. The next book I read is The Witch of Blackbird Pond by Elizabeth George Spear. When I ended up going with Someone Knows My Name in level 12, it meant I had to drop a book that I'd previously had that covered similar topics as that one, just not as well as Someone Knows My Name. So I was like, oh, I can't use both. They're too similar. So I needed a book to replace the other one, so I picked The Witch of Blackbird Pond because it's a classic. It's one of those books that it's just on every list. So, and I honestly, this is interesting to me because I read this a million years ago. I read this when I was in school, probably in middle school, and I remember loving it, but I hadn't picked it up since then. And so this was kind of a fun experience, rereading a book that I knew that I enjoyed when I was younger, but have not read since. So that was a fun experience for me. I recommend doing that. If you have books that you loved as a child but you haven't read since then, definitely pick them up because you get to see it in a whole different perspective as an adult. This is the book about a girl named Kit who was orphaned. She lived with her grandfather on the island of Barbados and on a big sugar plantation, and she comes to New England, and it's just a whole different world basically from what she's used to. And she comes to live with her aunt and uncle, and they're very Puritan, and she's not used to that at all. And she befriends an elderly woman who lives nearby in a little cottage, and everyone's afraid of her. They think she's a witch. She's actually a Quaker. And so I really liked getting that perspective of the different kinds of people and the way they viewed each other in this time. And it was just a really well done story. Oh my God, there's so many bugs right now. It's ridiculous. They're everywhere. I'm being swarmed. Apparently I'm delicious. Stop. But anyway, I really enjoyed reading this again as an adult. It's very good. And it still holds up, I think. And I gave this a 4 stars. And the last book I read in May was The Indifferent Stars Above, the harrowing saga of the Donner Party by Daniel James Brown, and another book that I just thoroughly loved. I devoured this. It is such a good book. I cannot recommend this enough. This is narrative nonfiction. He follows the story of Sarah Graves, who was one of the members of the Donner Party, and I loved how he focused just on her. I mean, obviously he talks about everybody, but he focuses the story around her. So you're following her from her life in Illinois before they left to go on the Oregon Trail, all the way through their really bad idea to take the cutoff. God, I really freaking hate Hastings. Like, I was so mad as I was reading this book. I was just so angry at him. Why would you ever tell people to take a shortcut you know is not an actual shortcut? Oh, what did he gain from this? I can't understand why anyone would do that. Anyway, enough of that. I found this book to be so engrossing. I want more. I had the hardest time moving on after I finished this. I have like the worst kind of book hangover where I can't actually take a break and just dwell in it. I have to move on because like there's a lot of books I still have to get through for level 12. So, hard. I would very much like to just stay in this world for a little bit longer and read more and learn more, because honestly this is not a time period and a topic that I've spent any time reading about. And so this was my first experience like really digging in. I knew the basics of what happened with the Donner Party. I knew they got lost. I knew there was cannibalism. But I honestly didn't know more than that. The first part of this book I found just to be riveting because it's following them along the Oregon Trail and like all the preparations they did and all of that. I loved the computer game Oregon Trail as a kid. That was like my favorite thing. And to read that was just so much like enjoying that aspect of it, is feeling like I was playing the game and like I was there. And I loved the story. The way he lays it all out is it's so well done. This is the best kind of nonfiction where you're just focusing on one small story and the repercussions of everything that happened. And it really brought it to life. It really made me want to read more. I actually have a book that I picked up at the Boston Book Festival last fall. Now I can't remember the name of what is it? Is it The Hunger? I think it's called The Hunger, which takes the same story of the Donner Party, but puts it into a supernatural realm. But honestly, I found this to be so terrifying. As is, like I would put this in horror. Honestly, this is almost horror story level of just such awfulness and despair, and like I don't know, I could not have survived. I would have been dead so early on. Honestly, I would have died before they even took the cutoff because I am not an outdoor girl. I don't hike. I don't do well in the outdoors. I would have starved way sooner. But anyway, I loved this. I gave it 5 stars. I highly recommend it. It will also be in level 12. I'm also I'm almost finished with Into the Drowning Deep by Mira Grant. I've been reading it all month, but I only read it on my Kindle at night, and so I don't get very far before I just crash. So I think at this moment in time, I'm like 80% through the story. I'm almost done. I really have enjoyed it quite a lot. I can't wait to finish it and then talk about it in my next wrap up, but it's really, really good. If you're into stories about mermaids and like just people trapped at sea getting eaten by mermaids, then I recommend that book to you because it's very well done. I need to read more of Shauna Maguire's books. Mira Grant, by the way, is Shauna Maguire's pen name. She writes, she writes horror, right? Yeah, all the horror books she writes are under the name Mira Grant, so you should definitely pick that up, but I'll talk more about it when I've actually finished it. But right now, at 80%, I'm riveted and I can't wait to finish it. So what did you guys read in the month of May? Did you pick up anything good? Do you have a new favorite book that you want to chat about? Let me know down below in the comments and we can chat about it. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Happy reading. Bye.